What's up,
Right.
everybody? ShonnyDman here, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you guys had yourselves a great weekend and so far a great week. Back on with a brand new guest. Very excited to have him on. So, first and foremost, tell us a little bit, tell us who you are, what you do, and let's get the ball rolling with this.
Sure thing. I'm Miles. As a lot of people know me as anakinmonkey on pretty much every social, but I go by Miles. You can call me Miles. It's what everyone knows me as. I'm a cosplayer and an artist, most notably known for cosplay, but art is sort of picking up too. So huge on Spider-Man. That's probably the main forte I do is all Spider-Man stuff, and then I kind of dabble with Star Wars as well. But everyone who knows me knows all about good vibes, all about spreading positivity in all those communities I'm in. So I'm happy to be here, man.
All right, awesome, awesome. So how long have you for the cosplaying aspect? How long have you been doing that?
I got that question a lot. So in terms of, I don't know if you would call it professional cosplay. In terms of like real, like going into it, really promoting myself, only like 3 or 4 years. But if you look back, I'm always sharing photos of like a little version of me. I don't know why I did that. I wasn't that tiny. A small version of me, like 6 or 7 years old, cosplaying Spider-Man. And every year for Halloween, I'd build a new costume with my mom until I got into it. So technically my whole life, but in terms of like what I do now, really promoting things and doing as far as I'm going now, only a few years.
Okay, okay. And were you also? I know you mentioned you were also an artist as well. Was that before, or is that you kind of just they both
Yes.
kind of came up around the same time?
No. So art was always before. I was always the kid who was drawing. That was the one thing I did. I actually have a BFA in illustration. I just graduated with it. So I was really
Oh,
committed to art, and cosplay started as the side hobby. But slowly, as I got into the media entertainment business, they kind of flipped. So where cosplay is my main thing, where people know me as, and it's like, oh, he can draw too. Well, technically, I draw more than cosplay, but I show more cosplay.
right.
But
Okay,
yeah,
so I
both I've been doing from a very young age.
okay, okay. Yeah, my best friend, he was virtually the same way. He's very artistic. He graduated a college near us in graphic design, and so he currently works for like not like a major airline company. It's pretty much a small little airport company near where we live. And so he designs like color patterns and different designs for like
Hmm.
very wealthy people for their yacht. Well, I don't think yachts.
It's
I think
something,
it's
yeah.
primarily planes and helicopters. I think he did a yacht, but I think it's primarily just like airplanes and helicopters. So he enjoys it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's something, You're always
Yeah.
moving into that field.
Yeah, I don't have that artistic touch as you or him does. So usually if I ever need something
I think
made,
everyone's got a little bit of artistic creativity
yeah.
in them.
Well, that's true. That is true.
They express
Um
it in different ways.
yeah. I know so whenever I need something, I'm just like, hey buddy, you mind making something? He's like, I got you. So it works out
That's
perfectly.
great. No, it's good. It's good having those connections.
Oh yeah. So why Spider-Man? Obviously, I'm sure it's like a pretty a pretty basic answer that anybody
That's
can give, but why particularly were you? What drew you to Spider-Man in particular?
that's the question, man. I mean, I think as a kid, he's the cool superhero. Everyone loves Spider-Man. And he wasn't even my favorite as a kid. My favorite was the Flash, because
Oh,
as a child, my favorite was the Flash. For the stupidest reason. I always wanted to be the fastest kid on the playground. And I was like, Flash is fast, so I like him. But as I kind of grew up and started paying more attention to the movies, the characters, how they're written, less so than the action scenes, I found a lot of not only comfort but discomfort, and I think that's important in Peter Parker's character and Spider-Man's character of like a uncomfortable realism. Like this is a character I relate to in a lot of ways, and I think I speak about it a lot. Spider-Man is a very relatable hero to where anybody who is watching him or her for Spider-Woman can see themselves in that position, and I think that's a really powerful thing, and that not a lot of heroes have. Um, Everyone watching Spider-Man feels something from that screen rather than just watching the screen. And I guess for me, it just, I don't know, it just one day it sparked an inspiration in me. It was like, I want to change the world the way Spider-Man does, and I'm going to do it. And I was just determined to do something like that. And I don't know, man. It's just, it's hard to explain how much that character really means to me. Just the morals, the beliefs, the values, everything that they stand for is tried and true to what I stand for.
Mm. No, yeah, I can definitely understand that. Growing up, I didn't know about Spider-Man until I think it was the '90s animated series. That was
Oh,
the
classic,
first time.
classic.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was the first time I came across Spider-Man, and even then, I was just like, because growing up, I was never really familiar with superheroes, whether it was Marvel or DC. And so the superhero concept never really clicked to me until as I start to grow a little bit older. And then obviously, because
Mm-hmm.
the '90s show was the first thing I saw from a superhero aspect, I immediately, fell in love with Spider-Man. And just like you said, a lot of the stuff that that he goes through in his life, you can definitely see yourself in those positions as well, whether it's
Yeah.
you're having to sacrifice maybe going out with your friends to make sure you have, you get to do your job, pay your bills, just simple everyday lives where you have to make sacrifices. Yeah, I can definitely,
Yeah.
anybody can understand that.
I mean, I've spoken about it before. I think when you look at every superhero, you can kind of paint out a safety net for all of them. Like Tony Stark has his wealth,
Mm,
Batman has his wealth, Superman is invincible. And that's not to take away from the struggles of these characters. They go
right,
through struggles. Tony's got PTSD and alcoholism. Batman with the vengeance of his parents. They all have these struggles. But when you look at Spider-Man, in a general sense, he doesn't have that safety net. And I think we as people in like our real lives don't have safety nets. Like
right,
not a lot of us have safety nets. It's you have to go to work or you won't have money, and you don't have money, you don't have this, and you have to maintain a social life. And what if you're messing up the balance? You can't get it all. Everyone struggles to do it all, and seeing a character who struggles to do it all and still chooses to do more with the powers he didn't ask to have is like it's perfect because he doesn't have to do that. There's no safety net for him doing it. He's making his own life harder, but he's doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I think all of us can kind of find some sense of comfort and hope in that.
right. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of like all the live action Spider-Man films that we've had so far, and like,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their favorite. Um, you can probably say Tobey Maguire. Oh, and I want to hear your opinion on this. Uh, you can probably say Tobey Maguire probably represents the best version of that struggle to to maintain that kind of balance in his life. Not saying Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland does it, but
Oh, of course. No, it's
but just
yeah.
I feel like Tobey Maguire's trilogy, particularly the first two, you can definitely see that struggle of
Yeah.
trying to balance that life.
That's why people refer to Spider-Man 2 as the greatest Spider-Man movie.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's in my top three because it there's many virtues and mantras of Spider-Man, like obviously great power, great responsibility, look out for the little guy, all that stuff. But the virtue that is taught in Spider-Man 2 is he's just a kid. And like Spider-Man helps everybody except Peter Parker. He is a direct antithesis to Peter Parker's life. And that movie hammers it down in the best way. Like he does not win at all in that movie.
right,
Not until maybe the last 25 seconds, he doesn't win. Even the fights he does win, there's still losses for Peter. And like you said, like that the story that is told there is done in a way that makes you feel like, damn, can this guy get a break or something? And when he finally makes the decision to like put the suit in the trash and give up being Spider-Man, it's such a twist because you would expect as a viewer to be like, don't do that. You're a hero. But we find ourselves rooting for him. We're like, yeah, put the suit away. You deserve to win for once. And we don't feel bad that he did that. When the crime is happening and he walks away, we almost feel like he deserves to not have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the end of the movie, he switches back and does the right thing. But like you said, that one, the movie and those scenes with Toby encapsulate that mantra of Spider-Man so perfectly. Of just, it sucks for him. Like it sucks
Yeah.
being Spider-Man for him. Everybody else benefits except him, and but he still does it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's
No,
just
I think
because
yeah,
every time Spider-Man does the right thing, Peter Parker loses in some aspect of his life. And it's just, and
exactly.
yeah, I remember as a kid watching that where he just kind of just he hangs up being Spider-Man. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like really crazy to watch because I was
It's
like,
tough.
what does this mean? Is he like done? It's just like, but
Yeah,
it makes sense when you're all like like you said, you sacrifice everything for the better
and you get
of
nothing back.
everyone. So
Yeah, you get
and it's
nothing for it.
yeah. After a while, it's just it really just drains on you, and
And like even to go farther than that, it's not even as if Spider-Man is getting praise either.
yeah
Spider-Man gets hated for it too.
yeah
Like Peter sacrifices his life to be Spider-Man to save the city, and both Peter and Spider-Man suffer from it. No one benefits except everyone but Spider-Man.
yeah
It's it's such a beautifully heartbreaking story, but it's relatable. Like we've all been in a situation like that. You get home from a shift and you want to quit, you want to hang it up. You try to start YouTube, you try to start something you want to do, and it's not working. You want to quit, you want to hang it up, but you know it's the wrong thing to do that,
yeah
and you have to push through the burdens.
yeah
It's just every mantra taught by Spider-Man, even as like Gwen and Miles go, every mantra taught is relatable to some person in some way, and I think that's incredibly important.
yeah. And then moving from Tom McGuire Spider-Man to Andrew Garfield. Now I enjoy the Amazing Spider-Man films. I
Mm-hmm.
probably would say I still enjoy the first one more than the second one, but
I think that movie is criminally underrated. It is
oh yeah,
criminally underrated. It
and
is phenomenal.
it's yeah, it is good, and I kind of and I do think whereas like I've had the discussion with my best friend before. We've talked about this where we both, and I want to hear your opinion on this, but where we both agree that Tobey Maguire probably plays a much better Peter Parker, whereas Andrew Garfield plays a much better Spider-Man. Just because there's some aspects of his Peter Parker character that don't necessarily line up for the most part. Like he's a cool dude. He has a skateboard, that kind of thing. But when he is Spider-Man, he's great at it. I mean, and I think
Mm-hmm.
lately, ever since Far From Home came out, a lot more appreciation for Andrew Garfield has really
Mm.
starting to show up, and I'm happy for that because a lot of people didn't like those movies, and a lot of people
Yeah.
some people didn't like Andrew Garfield, but I mean, but now, like I said, with Far From Home, people have really grown to love him as Spider-Man. So I'm happy to see that for him.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the whole who's the best Peter, who's the best Spider-Man, I've always said, I've kept a very strong standpoint on this one point. I've always said we've never had a bad Spider-Man. We've never had a bad Peter Parker. And I think it's important to kind of look at everyone in their own box rather than all together, because looking at Tobey Maguire, he's not going to be the same Spider-Man as Andrew Garfield. And now with the inclusion of No Way Home, we can clearly see they're not the same person. They deal with different things, but they're both Spider-Man. In terms of Peter Parker as a character, I will agree. Tobey Maguire did a fantastic job. I mean this in the best way possible, but he looks pathetic. Like he
Yeah,
looks like a wimp, and he should. He acts like one, and then you see he's a superhero. But that's the whole Peter Parker people know of.
Mm.
I will actually have to step in and defend Andrew's Peter Parker,
Okay.
but only for one reason. You said he's cool, he has a skateboard, and he dresses nice, and I totally get that standpoint. But the only reason I understand this point is because I was that kid in high school who dressed nice and
Oh,
had a skateboard and was artistic, but I was still bullied and isolated and treated like he
okay.
was. So I understood it, and I see it more as a youthful like resilience. He's standing like he rides a skateboard in the hallway, not because he's cool, because he doesn't care. It's not like he's a geek or a nerd and he's gonna follow all the rules like a Boy Scout, but
Mhm.
he is still isolated from the rest of the student body. They still treat him like crap, and I think it was done in a more realistic, grounded sense of like the reason I'm saying this is because it that happened to me like
Right.
directly. I was the kid who rode my skateboard to school, but no one thought like I didn't ride a skateboard and it was instantly cool. I rode a skateboard and still got made fun of liking superheroes or liking Star Wars, and I was isolated like Andrew was. So I understand how people think it's a cool guy swab attitude,
Hmm.
and it fits, it does. But I do still personally think it's a very good version of Peter Parker, but it is not the same as Toby's, like you said. They're not the same, and I've said this a million times. It's impossible to compare Tom to Andrew to Toby because it's like they're different things, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You they're the three. This is going to be a stupid analogy, but let's say one is pizza, one's a hamburger. You can't say this pizza is better than that hamburger because they're two different food items. You know,
Yeah.
you could say this pizza is better than this pizza, but a pizza versus a hamburger, they're both great and they're done differently, and I love that about it.
Yeah.
Every time you're watching a different actor, you get a different experience, and it's it's cathartic. You know,
Yeah.
seeing how they're done different, but still in that Peter Parker bubble.
And then we get Tom Holland's Spider-Man, where I enjoy. I like you, all three are great, and like you mentioned in their
Mm-hmm,
own individual boxes. I mean, I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and
mm-hmm.
he. I know a lot of people. There early on, there was a lot of hate, not necessarily hate. It was how Marvel was going about his character,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't dive too deep in that kind of thinking of it. And to me, is did
Yeah.
I enjoy this character? Does he represent what Spider-Man is? And you can, pretty much say, yeah, he does. Now, obviously, everybody there was this whole Iron Man Junior thing, and it's like it's just stuff about him that people didn't like. But I I viewed those as much more as growing, as him
Mm-hmm.
growing as Spider-Man. Because obviously,
Yeah.
look, he had in Civil War, he has his own little homemade suit. Now Tony Stark upgrades his suit, and he uses that for Homecoming. I think no, he doesn't use it as much for. No, he got a new suit in Far From Home, and then another one in No Way Home. So he's had multiple suits, and they all look good. I just enjoy his performances. Like he kind of gives that
Mm-hmm.
young teenage Peter Parker
Yeah.
look, and some of his quips, even though they can be corny sometimes, but I enjoy, and especially like again where Civil War and they're taking on Giant Ant Man or slash Giant Man, and he does a reference to Empire Strikes Back. And when that happened, I was just
That was
laughing
cool.
in the theater because I get that reference of what he's trying to do, and it's like you said, it's hard to judge all three together just because how each of them are done
Mm-hmm.
individually. But yeah, I really, to me, I really enjoy his performance as both Peter Parker and Spider Man.
Yeah. I mean, Tom is great. He brought his A game, and it was a perfect representation of what he was supposed to do. He did his job and did it perfectly.
Yeah,
Like I said, there's no bad Spider-Man. He did
right.
it perfect. I think the thing he brings to the table is bringing more of a youthful, vulnerable side of Peter Parker that we don't see too often. And I think that it's very important to show that, because it's very important to show one side of a character before you show the other. And in terms of No Way Home, when he's on the shield and he's has the goblin there and he is about to end the
Yeah.
goblin, like he's going ham on goblin, we see the dark side of Peter. That doesn't mean as much until we've seen the youthful, vulnerable side of Peter Parker. And he captured both of those. It makes it so much more powerful to see a broken Peter Parker once you've seen him happy and youthful. And it's very important to like dive into those things, even as much as like the little things like him punching. He doesn't even throw a punch in Homecoming. Like
Right.
in all of Spider-Man Homecoming, he doesn't punch a single criminal. And in Far From Home, he throws a single punch to knock down Mysterio. In No Way Home, he is wailing hit
Uh,
after hit after hit after hit. And you can very clearly tell, like when you're watching the scene, you feel it in your gut, like this is not Peter Parker. Like this is scary. And the only reason it's so powerful is because we've seen him be vulnerable and spare people's lives and be playful. And that's what Tom Holland captures so beautifully, is the youthful side. And it's hard to imagine and remember that this is just a kid we're watching. He's just a kid, like, and he's been through this much already.
oh, I know it's crazy. I think when we're first introduced to him, he's like sophomore in high school, maybe. And
Um,
I
yeah, he is.
yeah. Oh
He
yeah, yeah.
is.
Because
I believe
far
so.
No Way
Because
Home, they're
because
virtually seniors then. I
yeah,
think.
well, he got blipped too.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
the
That's
the
true too.
whole
That's true. But I
senior
mean,
year,
but yeah, but
because in Far From Home, they're on their senior trip. In
yeah.
Homecoming, they make a point to say he's younger because he's going for the senior girl.
Okay, yeah. And I remember
Yeah, he
because
is
it's
young.
he he goes to Germany with Iron Man and takes on Captain America and that team. There's the whole
Well, that
Infinity
was when
War and
that was
Endgame.
before. That was when he was 15 at that
Yeah,
point. In Homecoming, he's 15.
he has
Like
like
you fought Captain America at 15.
I love the little interaction with them too because it's just like where Cap basically like kind of
It's
disables Peter.
interesting. It's so interesting because watching the MCU as a whole, we see these adult heroes. They're in their prime. You have Captain America, who is a World War II veteran. You have Iron Man, who's a billionaire playboy. And then you throw a 15-year-old in the mix and he brings a youthful energy that some of them aren't even sure how to deal with it. They're like, what is going on? He's joking, he's quipping in a fight. He thinks it's fun. He's playing with it. He doesn't understand the stakes of what's happening until he gets through his own movies. And that's what you were saying, is how the whole Iron Boy Jr. thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm so glad that No Way Home ended the way it did, because it proved me right. For years, I was saying that just give it a second. This is important. Having Iron Boy Jr. is important because they're going to take it all away and he's going to learn to grow himself. Because that's what these movies did so well, is they give him everything. They give him that safety net that I talked about, how the other ones don't have a safety net. They give him a safety net, teach him what it's like to have it, and then take it all away. And he has to make the choice to no longer have a safety net, but still be Spider-Man.
Yeah,
And that's why I love his arc so much. Because people are like, oh, it's Iron Boy Jr. Yes, it is, but there's a reason to that. There's a reason. It's teaching him responsibility in a new way. He's making the active choice to continue to be Spider-Man, regardless of the fact that he's alone now.
yeah.
And it's chef's kiss. It is
Because
beautifully done.
he basically he didn't have like I mean now most of the Marvel heroes didn't have a mentor, but he didn't. Tony took him under his wing basically,
Yeah, he
and
had the guidance. Someone was
yeah,
holding his hand the whole way through.
and his experiences with the other Marvel heroes will only make him a better
Mm-hmm.
hero in his own right because of everything he's been through
Exactly.
with them as well. To where he's a lot more seasoned character and seasoned hero than what he would have been if he had never gotten involved in Civil War.
Exactly. If he was still in his little his sweatsuit going around stopping burglaries, he would still be doing that. But the amount he went to a different planet.
Mm,
He got blipped and came back. He fought aliens. And yeah, that kind of takes away from the realism a little bit, but it does what you said is the dude has been through some stuff. We now fully believe that he has what it takes to be Spider-Man. Versus when Homecoming comes out, back all the way when that movie came out, no one believed he could do it. They're like,
yeah,
he can't be Spider-Man. Now with all these like 6 years of context, we know Tom Holland Spider-Man has what it takes to be Spider-Man, and we're starting him off at a very strong state for his new trilogy.
yeah,
And it was like 6 years of telling an origin story. And I love that because the other movies, Toby and Andrew, no disrespect to them, but they cram the origin in a little bit because everyone knows the origin. Toby's crams his in like 45 minutes, and by the middle of the movie, he's already in college, being a full grown Spider Man. Andrew spends most of his first movie, so they stretch it a little bit more on his origin, and he doesn't learn to be Spider Man till almost the end. But Tom, they gave him 3 movies of his own and 3 side movies to learn to be Spider-Man. To now where we're starting, we've already fell in love with this character. We know who he is, and we're ready to see the next part of his story.
oh, yeah. And I think Tom Holland's villains as well were really well done, and it was very now. No Way
Mm-hmm.
Home is a little bit of an exception because you kind of rehash some of the villains, uh, but
Yeah.
but particularly with Vulture and Mysterio, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
happy. Well, a little bit of Scorpion, even though we haven't seen him again, but those two in particular, I was so
Yeah.
happy that we got. It wasn't a rehash of villains; it was brand new villains. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man
Yeah.
2, you had Rhino and Electro, but I think I enjoyed Mysterio and Vulture
He
more
also had
in
the
the.
Goblin in there too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He
that's
was in
true.
there for like 10
That was
minutes.
that was an interesting look, but we'll circle back to him in a
we,
second. But
we tend to forget about that one for a
yeah,
reason.
I and
But I love the movie, but there are
yeah,
mistakes.
I've seen arguments from people on TikTok and some other places where when it comes to those two villains in particular, Mysterio and Vulture, they talk about it as if it's more they're more of Iron Man villains than Spider-Man villains because the things that had affected their lives individually were caused by Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And Peter's kind of like,
Well,
eh,
yeah, he's kind of has to deal with it. I
yeah,
mean, I understand that in a sense, the cause and effect, Tony being the cause and they're now the effect. But the more you look at it, let's think about it. If Tony Stark was still alive, these guys wouldn't be going after him.
yeah,
Vulture would not go after Tony. Mysterio would not go after Tony, and Tony wouldn't care enough to go after these guys. Spider Man's still a low level hero at this point. He hasn't gone into space. They're perfect villains for him. And if I had a mentor and these guys were after my mentor, I'd probably want to get them. I would probably want to do that. And even still, like, yeah, they might have been birthed from Tony Stark mistakes, but by the end of the movie, they both have personal gripes with Spider Man.
yeah,
Mysterio now has a personal gripe with Peter. He's got the personal, like, I want to be Iron Man and you're trying to be Iron Man. That's his personal stake. Vulture has a personal stake of leave my family out of this, and now you've broken my rule twice. Now I'm going to get you. So yeah, they might be birthed from Iron Man heroes or Iron Man villains. I'm sorry, but they don't mean as much in Iron Man's story. They're just
yeah,
a fly on the wall at that point. They mean so much more to Peter's character. And I get the whole argument of Tony just creating problems for Peter. I get that argument, but at the same time, like, what we rather gonna watch him beat up a burglar for 2 hours? No, I want him to do a cooler villain, and I think they wrote them in very interesting ways where it thematically weaves into the universe.
yeah,
If Mysterio just popped up out of nowhere and had no connection, people would complain about that. They'd be he has no connection. There's no reason for him to be here. Now we give him the connection to Tony, which then gives him a connection to Peter, and people still complain. Like, well, what side do you want? I think it makes sense.
yeah. And I think with those two, I would probably say I enjoy Mysterio maybe a little bit more than Vulture. I mean,
That's
they did
that's
such an
fair.
amazing job with the effects of Mysterio and pulling
Oh, it was great.
some material from the comics and some of the imagery from the comics,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it was
yeah. The
just so
illusion
amazing.
scene, dude. Oh, that illusion scene was
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
Beautiful.
and
And
it
I,
made you
I
like
think one thing,
question too,
yeah,
like where like are we still in like is this an illusion? Is this real? There were like moments in the film, particularly towards the end,
the whole
where
movie,
you have
it's
to
like,
kind of question it.
is this real?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're on the edge of your seat the whole time because even at the end where Peter knocks him down, there's still one more illusion and he catches it.
yeah,
But what if he didn't? Like, it's crazy. And I think something that people don't talk about those movies enough is they've managed to take comic origin characters, maintain true to their comic origin while also make them modern. The Vulture isn't some bald guy in a bright green suit and wings flying down. He's an arms dealer. He's a thief. He's like, in a technical sense, a vulture. He swings in, takes the meat, and dips out.
mm,
That's cool. You somehow made him a comic accurate character, but still made him modern. Same with Mysterio. He does the illusions, he does the magic, but it's fake. It's an illusion. And it makes you believe in the sense that obviously it's not real, but it makes more sense that it could be.
yeah. And then kind of combining Toby, Andrews, and Tom Holland's villains. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Doc Ock, one of the best villains of all time. Absolutely.
Classic, classic.
Electro, I'm okay with Electro. I actually,
I don't have a huge issue with him.
yeah, he does his job as he's supposed to. I guess is the best way to say it. I do like the
I think the reason it's hard to defend Electro is because the movie directors didn't have faith in him.
yeah,
They gave two other villains in that movie. If you just gave that movie to Electro, I think it would have made it a little better. But you
yeah,
kind of just fizzle them out by the end, and now we have a bunch of different plot threads to follow. But
yeah,
Electro in and of itself is not a mistake.
right. And then let's see, we've got the lizard, which was pretty cool, pretty cool.
It was interesting,
Yeah,
interesting choice.
yeah, it definitely was for him. Well, I think in the comics, like the second issue, maybe third issue of like the original comics, didn't he first face the lizard as his first villain, or maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. I
It was
can't
pretty
remember.
early. It was pretty early. Yeah,
Um, but
I wouldn't know.
I did like. I thought it was pretty cool design that they went with. Rhino, very
Hmm.
forgettable. Um, just a plug-in villain. So
That's all
it's
we can
just
say. Very forgettable. I think
uh,
the scenes he was in were pretty cool, but
yeah,
that was about it. He was just a villain of the week,
yeah.
but more for like a day.
Sandman,
Sandman is great.
he's great.
I'll say Sandman
Uh
is pretty good.
it's weird with
I
him
think
being in
Flint Marco is.
yeah, but it's just weird with him being in No Way Home though. It's
Yeah, that was rough.
yeah, it just didn't make
I
sense
don't
because
see. I didn't understand why he was mad at Spider Man. It
yeah,
seemed
yeah,
like they didn't write
exactly.
that one out enough because the last interaction he had was, "All right, peace," and then they forgave each other and moved
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
And it
it's
seemed like he kind of just turned the table very fast on Tom Holland. He's like, these other guys are against Spider Man. I
yeah,
might as well do it too. Well, no, you were the homie. Like you were the only guy still kind of sensible. And it
mhm.
makes sense in the other guys. Goblin has the split personality. Electro doesn't want to lose his power. Um,
Lizard was kind of
Doc got changed. So he
eh.
Lizard was just there.
Yeah,
I don't know what his problem. I think Lizard and Sandman they didn't think too far in terms of why are they there.
yeah,
Electro and Goblin make sense why they're against Spider-Man and why they don't want to go home. But the other two, it's like neither of you really died.
yeah,
You were both okay in your universe,
yeah.
and you don't have a personal gripe. Like Spider-Man saved both of you. Why are you? What's going on?
And then we have the Green Goblin from Andrew's universe, which I will admit I did at the time. I thought it was a pretty cool concept to kind of turn him into a goblin esque figure. I thought that was
It's
pretty
like
cool.
a synthetic goblin.
Yeah, yeah, but
It's
I
an
mean,
it's an interesting concept, definitely. But again, I think the problem with that movie, as much as I love it, is if you're gonna pick a villain, pick one
yeah,
and stick to it. Because they tried to force in the whole Harry, as if Harry and Peter were best friends, and it's hard to believe that unless they spent the whole movie doing that, and they didn't. They just kind of threw him in, and I really don't know why. I
yeah,
cannot for the life of me understand why you needed to do that. You could have just had Peter and Gwen be the emotional pole and leave Harry out of it.
Do you
I
think?
don't know. I try not like kind of like you said earlier. I don't think too much in that aspect. If I enjoyed the film, I enjoyed
Yeah.
it. I'm not going to spend my time nitpicking on it. But there are criticisms I'm not going to ignore.
Do you think it suffered the same issue as Spider-Man 3, where there was just kind of like just too many villains?
I Well, I know the reason why that was happening in Spider-Man 3. It was because Sam Raimi only wanted Sandman. He only wanted Sandman for that movie and maybe some tension with Harry. But you have another guy, I can't remember his name, but another guy who wanted Venom because Venom was hot. Venom was popular. You can sell toys with Venom. So he kind of forced Venom into the script, and Sam Raimi, being the god he is, somehow made it work with the
Mm,
whole symbiote storyline. Um, but it definitely does suffer the same issue of there's too much to focus on, and we need to pick one.
yeah,
Because if you watch Spider-Man 3, as good as a movie as I think that is, if you watch the different parts of the movie, it's like you're watching a different movie. You watch later in the movie, Peter is fighting with the symbiote, like the black suit. He's fighting with that. But at the beginning of the movie, he's happy, he's quipping with Sandman. So, and then in the end, he's fighting Sandman again. It's very hard to follow when you don't have one villain,
mm,
and it just seems like you're forcing them all to one box instead of really hyper focusing. And that's why Spider-Man 1 and 2 are phenomenal, because you hyper focus on one villain and how they interact with that hero
yeah,
versus all. And I understand why, because obviously the Sinister Six is a big part of Spider-Man's story, and movie directors have tried multiple times to make that happen. But if you're gonna do it, you gotta put in the work. You gotta do it Infinity War style. You gotta make the movies to build it up and then have the final
yeah,
confrontation. And none of them really got the chance to do that. So it's hard to blame the movies for trying, because they went for it.
yeah.
But
I
it is a problem they've suffered.
yeah, and then there's William Dafoe as Green Goblin. Uh, Now personally for me, I was just personally for me. Now that he's kind of like in the MCU, I think
Mm-hmm.
he is the best villain in the MCU by far. I mean,
Well, yeah,
just
by
watching him again.
by technicality, yeah, by
Yeah,
technicality, he's in the MCU. He's
yeah.
and
I
he's
mean, it
Willem
was
Dafoe. Like,
it was just so crazy. It was so good, but also so crazy to watch William Dafoe go into that goblin mode again. And I remember just
his
watching it in the
dude, his
theater.
presence was
Yeah,
just that scene. I'm getting chills thinking about the scene now of Peter getting the sense he senses the
yeah,
personality change, and I'm like, oh, dude, what's happening? Like, no one knows what's going to happen. None of
yeah,
us. We think Goblin is cured at this point. None of us know what's going to happen, and then it happens. I'm like, oh, that was creepy.
yeah.
And then the whole apartment fight scene was genuinely scary with Peter
Oh
wailing on him
yeah,
and he's just
yeah,
laughing at him.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god! Like,
Expect yeah.
what do
He's
you
just like
do?
wailing on
You
him,
you have
and
super. Uh oh.
he just starts laughing. I was like, oh my
Wait.
gosh.
Yeah. Like, what do you do? You have super strength and you're punching him as hard as you can, and he's laughing at you. What do you do?
He's just, oh my gosh, he is just,
It's such a good scene. The whole
it,
apartment fight, and then it leads to spoiler alert, May's death. But
yeah.
if you don't know that spoiler by now,
Oh
that's not
man,
my fault. It's been like 2 years.
that
Oh,
was
that
just,
scene was gut wrenching because
oh yeah, it
my friend
was.
actually leaned over to me when she's running down the stairs, and you don't even see her in any danger yet. My friend leans over. He's like, "Dude, she's gonna get it." I'm like, "No, no, you're wrong." Like, I'm in denial. I'm in full denial. Like, no, she's gonna be fine. We see her like hold the cure in her hand, like about to get Goblin, and I'm like, "All right, you might be right, bro." And then the thing blows up. Like, yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
And he leans over. He's like, "Yeah, this is gonna be the Uncle Ben moment." Oh, I'm mad that you're right, but you're right, and it's beautiful.
Oh, man,
Oh,
it
like
was
there's
just
a whole sense of tension in that whole scene. You don't know who's safe, who's not safe. Everyone dips out the windows. Lizard, for some reason, just throws Peter back in the building, which is hilarious to me. When he's fighting Goblin,
oh yeah.
and
It's
he
just
gets knocked out of the building. Lizard is just there to catch him and throws him back in. It's like, oh come on, give my boy a chance here.
it was
Like,
just
give him a sec to breathe.
yeah, man, and then just the whole scene was Andrew and Toby coming in. Just that
Oh,
theater was
dude.
it
Oh,
was
it's
just
beautiful. It's
wild.
so beautiful. It's so good, man. Like, because that's what we were talking about earlier. The whole "I give up" scene. He's
Mm,
talking to two Spider-Man who also gave up at one point, and he's like, "No, you don't give up. We don't give up. We both did it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to give up like we did." And oh,
it's
dude, it's so. I'm gonna watch that movie after the stream now because I'm like, I'm getting chills now.
Andrew is so funny in
It's
this in that movie because one of the funny
for
things
like no reason too. It's just
exactly
him being there is funny. Oh
he
my
was just
god.
like because he looked over to Toby. He was just like, so do you have a suit or do you always look like a cool youth pastor? And it's just
Yeah.
like, what is this? Oh my
I was like, "Can you
gosh,
get the
it's just
spider on the wall?" Yeah, like just his demeanor, his mannerisms, he's perfect for it. Can you get
and
the
then
spider up there?
and
Well,
then
I
they
mean, I
both freak
guess
out when they see Toby shoot
the
or
webs,
get
the
yeah.
webs.
It's just
Oh,
like,
dude,
what is that?
I'm so glad they kept that in and didn't
Yeah.
retcon it. And there's no explanation. Like they didn't bother to say how or why. It's just that, and everyone freaks out. And then Tom, yeah, like, does it shoot out of other places or just your
just
hands?
I just love it.
No,
I remember watching the
those little
scene.
things.
Oh yeah, because I remember watching the scene where like Ned is opening a portal because apparently he's magic, and so when Andrew comes in, like the theater I was in just went crazy. And then when Toby
Oh,
comes
dude,
in,
I had a. Mhm.
people were excited to see Toby also, but I feel like more people were so excited to see Andrew Garfield. I mean, just as much as Toby, but I mean, it was just
I think it was because it happened a few seconds first, and
yeah,
when the portal opens and you see Andrew, it's confirmed in your head the theories are true, and you know when you see Andrew, you're going to see Toby.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like I think that's where all the excitement comes from. Is it's not like, oh my god, it's Andrew. That's where most of it is. But there's also a strong passion of, oh my god, we were right. They're both about to show up. And it's not like it was a secret. Like they
Oh
tried to
yeah,
keep it a secret, but the fans are ruthless. We figured it out. We
yeah,
knew.
definitely.
The funny thing is that you look at the marketing for the movie, they didn't hint about it at all. Like there's no hints except like some portions of the trailer you can kind of
Yeah, you can kind of make out.
theorize, but they never like hinted there was more people coming to help him. They never said anything. We just all knew like if there's any point in time to bring in those two Spider-Man, it is now.
Mhm.
And the fans are ruthless. We figured it out.
No, yes. Oh man, and then one of the most heartfelt scenes was when Andrew saved MJ, and it's
Oh,
just
dude, chill.
oh man, it just broke your
Dude,
heart.
because it was like it's one of those things where you wouldn't believe it happened unless it happened.
Mm,
And it's so perfect. You see Tom going for her, and we're in the trailer. We're under the assumption that Tom is either going to catch her or not going to catch her. No one could predict that Andrew was going to be the one to catch her. And then when he jumps, that's when my theater cheered the loudest. Is not on their arrival. Is when Andrew caught MJ
oh
because
yes,
that was the his story. He learned to forgive himself, and in doing so, he can save someone and dude, and his face too. Like his face is just he doesn't know if he should be happy or sad because he's like, I just saved you, but I couldn't save her. But at least I saved you.
yeah, that was
It's
just
such a good scene, man.
love. It's no. No Way Home is just so full of good nostalgia. And I just
It's
love
a
it.
love letter to Spider-Man
Oh
fans.
yeah, definitely,
And
definitely it
that's
is.
where I'm seeing a lot of people give it more criticism now because they're like, were we blinded by nostalgia and love? And I'll admit, like, yeah, we were, but it's still cool. Like,
Yeah,
you can't, sure, there's criticisms, but you can't deny that that is a cool movie. That is great. Everything about that movie is cool. Sure, and there might have been some hype about it. Whatever. It was cool. I think it deserves some of that hype.
yeah. I mean, at the moment, I think when Marvel talked about the multiverse, and then
Oh,
some of the trailers that are coming out, it's just like, oh man, it really got you more excited because you're like, this is a good chance for us to see a crossover. So
yeah, like it could happen. The more we saw, the more we were convinced, like, we might be right. This could happen.
yeah, and now besides those films, the other kind of Spider-Man-ish movies, you have Venom and Morbius. Morbius was not that
I haven't
great.
even, I have not even seen more.
Really, it's
I won't
it's
lie.
not that
I
great.
wanted to go see it. You're not missing much, brother. Listen,
So,
I've heard some things, and I'm very strong on saying I'm not going to give my opinion on a movie I haven't seen because that's
right.
just wrong. But I will say that there's nothing inspiring me to go see this movie,
Mm,
and I'll leave it at that
that's fair.
because I'm not going to sit here and praise it or hammer it down if I haven't seen it. That's not fair. And even if I did see it, I would just say, yeah, I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's about it. I'm not going to spend my time, like I said, good vibes. I'm not going to spend my time talking about what I don't like.
Yeah.
Um,
And then there's Venom.
Venom,
Is
Venom, I think was phenomenal. Actually, I think it
I haven't
was
seen the
really
second
good.
one. I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, I would stay at that to be honest. I think the second one isn't bad. It's just very rushed.
Mm,
By the time we got to the end of it, my friend and I were confused, almost like that was fast, and we didn't know if we followed it all. But the first one, I think, is very strong.
mm,
Um, it's a very interesting take on Venom's character. It focuses much more on the bond between the symbiote and Eddie, and that's something we don't see a lot. We see Venom as a Spider-Man villain, not as his own character.
right.
And I think that's great. Seeing him as his own character is great. I think it's a really enjoyable movie.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
don't see much. There are some problems. Of course, every movie has problems, and when you take something that far from the source material and get creative with it, you're gonna take some risks. But I would watch it again. Like I've watched it a few times. It's a
Yeah.
good movie. It's solid. It's the best interpretation of Venom we've seen, but that's not saying much. We've only ever seen one other live action version of him.
Yeah. So this past weekend, I went and saw, and I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, but I think you mentioned you were going to see it, but Across the
I did
Spider
see it.
Verse.
I did see it.
It's such a fantastic movie.
It is. Listen, it is a groundbreaking film,
Oh
and
yeah.
there are some things there are some things that I've been questioning ever since I saw this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I really loved. It's like they kicked it up a notch with the art styles, the animation. Like I mean,
Oh, dude, they
Spider
went
Punk
crazy on it.
just
They went crazy on it. They were mixing animation styles. In the one scene, they had like four characters from four different universes in four different animation styles
yep.
blend seamlessly. I'm like, wow,
It's just
that is that
it was
is something.
so wild.
And it
Uh
never felt wrong. That
no
was the
no
one thing is it's a really risky choice doing that. It never felt like it was too much or too little. It
yeah,
didn't feel wrong. That was a good thing to look at.
yeah. I've seen people on Twitter talk that they're like they kind of was jarring for them probably because they're not used to that kind of thing. I don't know if they saw Into the Spider Verse
Well,
or
it's
not.
just in Into the Spider Verse is it's in one stylistic universe. It's in
Yeah.
Miles' universe. This movie it's not a spoiler to say this, but it jumps universes.
Mm,
You spend time in different dimensions. And which of course we know from the first movie, different dimensions have different art styles, just
yeah.
as a way to like differentiate them. And I think that may be where it lost some people is when you're spending time in these different dimensions, I know there was one scene in particular. I'm not going to say the scene, but there was one scene in particular where the art style goes really crazy,
Okay.
but it wasn't in the dimension we're familiar with. Um, so like I noticed it went crazy. I noticed it was very a subjective art take, but I didn't have a problem with it because I
Right.
knew why. We're in a different dimension. It's going to look different, and I think that's a strong stylistic choice.
It was such an interesting way to end the movie too, like on a little cliffhanger.
That it was. I
I I personally don't have a
I
problem with
sat in
it.
that theater. I sat in that theater like, damn, they really just did that, didn't they? And it's not like it's a huge wait because we're gonna get the next one in March,
Yeah.
but it did throw me for a loop because it's almost like I'm trying to phrase this in a non-spoiler way. It's like the whole movie was set up to what we were about to see, and then we didn't see it. So the
Mm.
whole movie almost felt like, damn, nothing happened. Well, it did happen. It's just it's not done yet.
Right.
So it's hard to get into the mindset of once they both are out, it's a continuous movie.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you can watch it and it'll have a rising action, a climax, and a falling action. But there was no climax or falling action here. It was just rising and then it stopped. It just a dead
It's just
drop. So my friend and I were like, damn, we're so mad. But I think the fact that we're mad is good because
yeah.
we're just so excited to see what comes next.
And
Because
I mean,
if you don't care about it, you're like,
oh yeah,
whatever.
definitely. And
But
I was, and then also I was very surprised the amount of spider-gwen that there was. Obviously, I know
I
in the
was
middle of the
pleasantly
movie,
surprised.
I knew
Yeah,
she was going to be obviously there, but the beginning
I
and
was
the
very
end
pleasantly
were very
surprised.
interesting.
They focused very heavily on her character, and I think it was a strong choice to do so because we know Miles, we
Yeah.
know a lot about him, and all we would be doing now is spending time with Miles, which we did. We see him as Spider-Man. We see him very efficient with what he's doing. He knows his place. He's struggling to be Spider-Man, and we all know this. So I think it was a very strong choice to spend time with Gwen to see her perspective because she's a very
She's a fan
how do I
favorite
phrase
now, I
this?
think.
She's my fan favorite.
Oh
Like
yeah, it's
obviously,
just
Miles is my all-time favorite Spider-Man, but Gwen is you know
yeah.
fantastic. When I went on my photo shoot, I went with a Gwen
Oh
because
really?
we always do we do duo shots all the time.
Oh,
It's Miles and Gwen
oh.
all the time, and then we'll just do solos on the side. But we always promote the movie as Miles and Gwen.
And I think
But
I
yeah, I
saw
mean,
something
spending
earlier where I think they are planning. There's two things. They're doing a live action Miles Morales. I don't know
I
how.
saw that that was in speculation. I
Yeah.
don't know how confirmed that is.
And then there's a Spider Gwen movie that are in the talks. I don't.
I wouldn't be opposed to that
No,
to
I
the
wouldn't. I
Gwen
wouldn't
movie. I think
either.
spending more time with her character.
Yeah, I think that would
Miles
be.
is a tricky subject because I think you can have the character Miles Morales in live action, but you need to work to differentiate it from Spider Verse. You need to ensure the fact that people know it is a different plot line, kind of
Right.
like Peter Parker in Homecoming versus Peter B. Parker in Spider Verse. They're not the same, but they can both coexist. Right now, the most definitive version of Miles is in Spider Verse.
Mm,
So to make a live action Spider Man of Miles, you really need to put it in the work to make it different and ensure that you know these are not the same versions of the character. This is a different version of Miles that you have to understand and learn and re-fall in love with this one.
yeah. And then
So
let's see.
basically, yeah, you could go in with no prior knowledge of Spider Verse and still enjoy it.
Oh yeah. And then Oscar Isaacs as Miguel. Great.
Dude, man,
Amazing.
he brought his A game. He
He
brought his
yes, he
A game.
did.
He did not phone that in at all.
Man, that
That was
was
I'm confused on how to feel about that character, but I
oh, I
think
know.
because
It's weird because
it's
like
it's good.
you understand
It's
why
good
he's doing
having
it,
yeah. It's good
but
having characters that you're unsure about and
yeah,
not just like a passable like he was fine. Like no, it's good to be concerned if you like him or if you don't. And I think that's strong because Ooh, I'm trying not to say anything that's borders on
Right.
spoiler territory. I would just say watch the movie,
Yeah.
and for for everybody who like I posted, I saw it and got like 12 messages like, "How was it? What did you think?" I'm like, "Just go watch it, bro. Talk to me after, but watch it because
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
gonna be the
just
one to tell you. Like
oh, it's
you
just
need to see it. It will you'll know more when you see it."
oh man, it's just like and then towards the ending, I was just like it took me a while to realize where Miles was. And
Dude,
then I was
oh my
like,
god. It it got me chills because I think I figured it out earlier than I should have.
oh,
Because he figures it out way too late. He figures it out like he's done. He figures it out way too late. I figured it out. When did I figure it out? I think it was when it's like halfway through the scene when Gwen goes into the empty room. I'm like,
oh
oh
yeah,
no.
right there.
I was like, oh no, this is
Yeah.
something. Oh no. And then they both realize it at the same time. I'm like, oh my god, dude, what do we do now? That was such a twist, though. Like
Oh yeah.
that's a good twist that you just happens. You don't. There's no setting up for it until you go back and look and realize they did set it up with the
Yeah.
whole the machine scans you and sends you to the place you're
Yeah.
supposed to go,
And
and then they hint back at the spider.
what's crazy too is like during that sequence, like I I didn't even notice. I guess because I was like so curious on if Miles was going to get there, I didn't notice the art
Mhm.
style of where he was
Dude,
at.
oh, that was my first key in is when he dropped in. It was very green. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, your universe is normally very blue. Something's off. But I thought it was an art style again. I
Yeah.
didn't think too much. It was just in the back of my mind, like something looks strange, but I'll go with it. And then it happens. I'm like,
Mm,
oh, that's why it looked so weird.
yeah. I mean, man, such a good movie. I'm really surprised we're getting the third one as quick as we are. So I wonder if they just
Oh, I'm
after they
not. I
finish
think they need.
production, did they go in
I
and
think it's
just
done. I think it's
yeah,
done.
that's I'm really
I think they,
surprised.
well, it took let's think like what 5 years to get this movie. I think
E-
they're in this movie. The next one will be released in like March, so less than a year. They have to be in the final stages of the
mm,
next one. There's no way they could just say, "All right, we're starting now."
yeah.
No,
It
they're not.
especially yeah, especially with the art styles and everything in it. You
Yeah,
have to
like
start.
because they're gonna give us a full movie.
Yeah.
I think almost it's either almost done or it is done, and they just split it. It's not like Infinity War and Endgame where it wasn't done and they ended it and then started the next one back to back. I think they made the full movie and they just cut it in half.
If it's coming out in March, then I would expect the first trailer probably
Dude, what if they
around
don't
no.
give us trailers? Plot twist, they give us no trailers
Oh
whatsoever.
man, that would be crazy. That would be
Because
wild.
technically speaking, we don't need a trailer. Nothing different is gonna happen. It's just continuing the story.
Oh yeah, that's
So in
true.
a technical sense, they don't need to drop a trailer. They will to hype the movie up eventually,
Yeah,
but they don't need to.
I'll be fine if they
That
did
would
just.
be
I'll be fine if they just dropped one
it's
trailer.
like I was like that would be the ultimate like sweep under the rug move. You just give us no trailers and then a month before just remind us the movie's coming out.
Right, because I mean, if you're the people making this movie, you know the fans are already going to be excited to see this movie. So you can probably like
Especially yeah, if
just
it's a
play a
part
little
two,
bit.
especially. Yeah, take your time hyping this thing up.
Yeah, definitely. And so, but man, and also too this year we're getting Marvel Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
Very,
that looks insane.
it
Oh my god.
does.
Dude, I don't even have a PlayStation and I've made like 3 videos on that on that game already. Like I
I
don't have anyone to play it, but I'm still like, hey guys, look, you can do this, and then just tell me about it later.
that that 12 like kind of 12 minutes gameplay that we got, it
The
looks
gameplay.
amazing.
It was insane. The new move set with the symbiote suit, the new moveset with the glider, the wingsuit, it all looks insane.
I mean, Craven.
Oh, and then Miles, yeah, Miles with an upgraded Venom strike and Venom
Oh yeah,
abilities. Craven being in the game.
I think.
Oh, dude, it's so much. It's a good time to be a Spider-Man fan.
Yeah. Oh
It
yeah.
really is.
Because I think
Not that this is a bad time, but it is a good time.
because I think Mysterio is supposed to be in the game too. I read somewhere
With
he was
video
supposed to
games, you
be.
have more freedom to do that. You have more freedom to drop in heroes and
Mm,
villains as side missions versus a main story. Because I still don't know what the main storyline
right.
is. I guess I didn't look too deep into those trailers. I think it would have to do with Craven.
Because
He
you
got
would,
his own
because I
trailer.
guess too, also because you don't know, because like the first teaser that they did, you know, it kind of like it just showed Venom eyes and teeth. So, and a lot of people were talking, are
It was Venom himself, but
yeah,
now I'm concerned that Peter is gonna turn into Venom, and that they pulled a trick on us in that first trailer.
I've heard people,
That's my
yeah, I've heard people say the same thing.
that's my concern. I think it'd be a cool story thread. I'm only concerned because I don't want Peter to be a bad guy.
Right.
But I think
Exactly.
if it happens, I think it'd be a great story.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm excited nonetheless. I'm excited to play it. So I
Yeah, I'm excited to see people play it.
so I can't I gotta because I just built a PC, so I'm very excited to just play it
So
on
there you go.
my
Yeah,
wallet's not
I mean,
too fond of me building a PC, but it definitely it is what
it
it
never
is.
is. Yeah, I mean,
um.
I won't be able to play it, but I am the Spider-Man guy, so I'll be covering the game
Oh yeah.
pretty heavily. I'll be talking about it, but there'll be a little tear under my mask the whole time. Like, yeah, hope you guys are having fun with that.
I'll play it and just
Hey,
think of you as I'm playing it.
the
Just,
mask absorbs the tears. It's okay.
but all right, guys. I think that is where we will end this episode of Nerd Talk. So much fun, just nerding out, talking Spider Man. Um, as per usual, you guys, it should be up on screen now. But these are all the ways that you can follow and support. Um, you can also go over to his TikTok as well. That also be on the screen too, so you should be able to do that as well. So be sure to go over, show Miles some love and support. You know, this was fun. This was definitely a fun conversation. We'll definitely
I
have
had
to,
fun shooting the shit with
yeah,
Spider-Man, man.
we'll have to definitely figure out some other content to come up with and put out there for sure. Um, but other than that, you guys know the drill. Hit that like and subscribe button, comment below, and I will see you guys in the next episode. See ya.
Peace.
Okay. This thing wants to quit.